Hi, I'm Briana King, and I work at GBS as a health and wellness consultant. And today I'm going to be talking about some ways of how you can connect to your resilience. In today's seminar, we're going to first talk about what resilience is. Then we're going to talk about how to develop resilience by practicing personal well-being, creating connections, developing a healthy mentality, and determining your sense of purpose. So psychologists define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Some of these sources of stress could be family or relationship problems, maybe a serious health condition, or workplace stressors. A common myth to debunk with resilience is that it's something you have or don't, an all or nothing trait, when in reality, resilience includes a variety of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and it can be learned, practiced, or improved by anyone. A quote to think about with this is, "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails." And I think this paints a pretty picture about how being resilient encompasses adjusting to and accepting your new reality. So resilience, once again, is a skill that can be developed by anyone. And although this isn't a black and white process, there are specific components that one may focus on in order to develop their own personal resilience. So the 4 building blocks that we're going to quickly discuss today are to practice personal well-being, create connections, develop a healthy mentality, and determine your sense of purpose. First point. So within well-being and self-care, most important thing is that we make space and time for this, and remember that it's not selfish, but rather essential that we focus on our own self-care and well-being so that we can show up as our best self, not only for ourselves, but for others. And the bottom line is, if we prioritize self-care and build holistic well-being habits, we will be better able to adapt and deal with the stressors in our life in a healthy way, rather than turning to unhealthy or harmful practices. A few well-being tips to follow. First thing is to incorporate movement, and this is movement that brings you joy, not just structured, planned exercise, but things that are going to get you up and moving frequently throughout the day. Maybe a dance party with your family, a walk with the dogs, a quick stretch break at work. Second point is to focus on nourishment and thinking about food in a light that makes us remember food is something that helps nourish our bodies and connects us with others. Third point is to prioritize sleep. So really trying to get those 7 to 9 hours, because this is vital to all aspects of our well-being, especially our mental well-being. This is when our brain is able to get rid of waste, store memories. So many great things happen when we sleep. So really try to stick to a set bedtime and a bedtime routine. Fourth point is to practice mindfulness, and you're going to hear this a couple times throughout the presentation, but being present is so important to all aspects of well-being once again, and it really can just help us better manage our outlook and deal with situations with clarity rather than panic. So start with simple practices such as 5 to 10 minutes of breathing each day. Fifth point is to make time for play and fun. And I just want you to think about your daily routine. Do you include activities that make you laugh regularly, help you relax? As kids, we're really great at playing, taking time for games, things like that. But sometimes as we get older, we forget to include things that make us smile and laugh each day. And last point is to strive for balance, which really just is the key for everything, right? But determining how to properly manage your time is probably one of the most important skills that we can work on. Some tips to help us do this are to prioritize our task each day and aim to complete your most difficult task at the beginning of your day. Set limits and know when to say no, plan ahead, and deal with your stressors as they come up. Creating connections. So resilience isn't about toughing it out or going in alone, but rather the opposite's true, and being able to reach out to others and create connections is a key component to our resilience. The bottom line is people with strong social connections tend to be happier, respond better to stress, and they're just more resilient overall. So what are some things we can do to help build our own personal connections? First and foremost, it's important that we make time for those one-on-one relationships and genuinely connect to these people by going on date nights, having lunch with a friend or coworker, maybe calling or FaceTiming a distant relative. But when you are spending time with these people, put those electronic devices away and be present with them. Next point is don't be afraid to tap into your family, friend groups, your faith groups, community. They're there to help support you and can be a great, strong social support network. And last thing is to ask for help. Asking for help can be extremely hard when you're going through tough times, but this is the most important time to take advantage of your support system. Interesting quote that I found by Brené Brown, who's an American research professor, lecturer, author, has a podcast. She has a lot of great resources on personal growth. If you're interested, I recommend you look into her. But the quote that I found is that if you can't ask for help without self-judgment, you cannot offer help without judging others. So just remember that, figuring things out on our own doesn't make us stronger. It's not a shame to ask for help. The truth is that we don't need to figure these things out alone. We're social beings and we should be able to rely on others for help. So just think about that. Next kind of part of creating connections is to think about your positive interactions. And research has found that marriages are much more likely to succeed when couples experience a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. And although this may seem obvious, what are some of the things we can do to have more positive interactions in our relationships? Simple practices such as just smiling more, paying attention to your body language, and actively listening can help. Of course, continually practicing your communication skills, being open and honest, recognizing when you tend to jump to conclusions, criticize or get defensive. Work to build your emotional intelligence skills. And a great resource and book that our team read is Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradbury and Jean Greaves. This is a great resource if you're looking to learn more about emotional intelligence and build your own, as well as recognize this in others. And the last practice here is to express gratitude. And expressing gratitude not only connects us to ourselves and brings those positive emotions to light, but it also connects us to others when we share our gratitudes. So I challenge you today to think of something specific that you're grateful for, write it down, and share it out loud with someone. Third portion here is to develop a healthy mentality. And in order to develop a healthy mentality, we must first open the door to the creation of healthy thoughts and a healthy outlook. Unfortunately, as humans, we tend to remember traumatic experiences better than positive ones. We recall insults better than praise. And we react more strongly to negative events, as well as tend to think negative thoughts more frequently than positive ones. And this is due to what's called as our negativity bias. And it's likely a result of evolution that we have this. Our ancestors had to recognize threats in order to survive. But unfortunately, it's something we've continued. So how do we overcome this and encourage positive thoughts? First is to foster and savor our positive emotions and experiences. So think about those events that trigger joy, curiosity, motivation, creativity, and do things to trigger these emotions. Do things that bring you joy. Also, next time you have a positive experience, Remember that it takes more for these positive experiences to be remembered and stored in our memory. So try to replay these things over in your head a couple times, really tuning into how those positive emotions make you feel. Second point here is to keep things in perspective, and this can be done by reframing or shifting your mindset to look at times and situations as temporary rather than permanent. Pay attention to your thoughts and how often you're practicing negative self-talk. And then also taking the time to recognize your own personal cognitive distortions or irrational thoughts, such as overgeneralizing, black and white thinking, disqualifying the positive, or using emotional reasoning. And the last point here is to remember that instead of fixating on past mistakes that cannot be changed, consider what you have learned and how you might apply it in the future. So studies have shown that as people get older, they tend to realize how life is short, and they are more likely to pay attention to what makes them happy in the current moment rather than dwelling on past experiences or failures. So I challenge you to not wait till you're older and focus now on the things that make you happy and being present in the moment rather than dwelling on past events. And within creating a healthy mindset, it's extremely important that we take care of our mind and our cognitive health. So some things we can do to stimulate cognitive well-being and health are to challenge ourselves by continually reading, writing, seeking feedback, pursuing continuing education opportunities, learn about your own personal character strengths, and maybe do different brain exercises such as Sudoku, the Wordle of the day, brain teasers, things like that are all really great. And the second practice is to focus on being present or practicing mindfulness. And I just want you to take a second and think about the last meal you had or the last conversation you had. Were you engaged? Were you being mindful? Do you remember what you talked about or what you ate? And it's okay if you don't. And that's why it's important to remember that presence is something we need to practice. Being mindful isn't something that we just have. We have to continually practice doing this. So some things you can do are to tune into all 5 senses. Plan to be fully present when you're in a conversation by putting your electronics down, minimizing distractions, and really focus on monotasking versus multitasking. Okay, last portion here is to determine your sense of purpose, and identifying with a higher sense of purpose can be a big ask and a hard thing to achieve. Some small steps you can take towards finding and establishing purpose include regularly setting and revisiting realistic goals, and shifting your mindset to focus on those small accomplishments by asking yourself, what's just one thing I know I can accomplish today that's going to help me move in the ultimate direction I want to go. Focusing on those little things each day really helps us take control and foster our own self-efficacy. The next thing is to seek opportunity by volunteering, to help with a larger cause, supporting a friend in need, or maybe taking the lead on a new work project. Those are all great ways to kind of put yourself out there and connect you with others or something that may give you a sense of purpose. And the last thing is to take time to reflect, and within this, maybe journaling each night and thinking about what your why is. Some questions you can ask yourself are, what makes you come alive? What gives you the fire in your belly? What are your innate strengths and how do they help you in each dimension of your life? If you haven't taken a character strengths quiz before, one that our team has taken and I would personally recommend is the VIA Strengths Finder quiz, spelled VIA. So yeah, I recommend looking into that. Third point is to think about where you add the greatest value. Is this at work, at home? And why are you most likely to succeed and contribute here? And then the fourth point is to think about how you will measure your life. And within this, think your core values, and are you sticking to those things and bringing them to each and every day and what you're spending your time doing? So with that, I know we covered a lot in a short amount of time, but hopefully you took one thing away that you can continually practice in order to develop your own personal resilience. So thank you for joining.